Howdy, Rockstars. I am Lij Shaw, and welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. In this video, I want to talk to you about why you suck at writing lyrics, and so do I, and what you should do about it instead. So I have been making music for 35 years. I've been making records. I've been playing in bands. I've been co-writing songs, and I also write my own songs. I've also run a podcast for 10 years now and interviewed over 500 different engineers, producers, songwriters, musicians, equipment makers, gear makers, all kinds of people, all around the topic of making records. So I've had all this experience, but really at my core, the thing that still drives me every day, the thing that makes me excited, the thing that gets me passionate about doing any of this stuff is actually making the music myself, is actually sitting down and wanting to step up to that. Well, I'm contradicting myself. There you go. Mixed metaphor. Sitting down and wanting to step up to that mic at the same time to write and sing a song, you know? And I know that if you're watching this video, that's you as well. So if you're super driven to wanting to be able to write a song, you struggle with dealing with writing lyrics, you sometimes don't know what you want to write about, you think, I don't know, when I try writing something, I write it, come up with an idea, and it just sounds stupid, then this video is for you. So keep watching, because at the end, I'm going to also talk to you about something that's going to really help you out. So the first one is creating what my buddy and I in my band, Chris King, who's the singer of my band, he used to call the gig book. So this would be a notebook that we would take with us on tours, and it was a place to just write down everything that was happening on the tour. You'd write down all the gig information, you write down who's who and what's what. But he started practicing way back then this idea of writing down things people would say and interesting stuff, interesting lines. And it became this gold mine for, a place to go look for great ideas and great quotes. So you'll be standing around and somebody will say some incredible line. And then you'll think, wow, that really sounds kind of cool. That'd make a great song lyric. Well, when you hear that and in that moment, don't stop and leave it like that. Don't just say, oh, it might make a great song lyric and then just kind of move on and forget it, because you will forget it. You won't remember it later when you want to. But the gig book is a really easy way for you to write the idea down and commit it to paper so that you can come back later and look at it. And the best part is you're going to write down quotes and things that you hear people say and, extract cool sentences and just phrases and expressions. And in the moment that you hear them, you might think you know what that means, but you might sort of, again, your inner critic might step in and go like, I don't know, how are you going to put that into a song? What's the context and everything? Well, the beauty of it is when you come back later and you refer to your gig book and you look at all these collected song ideas and everything that you put down, you'll realize that you've forgotten what the context was. You forgot what the meaning of that particular phrase was specifically, and it no longer matters. And now it's open to interpretation, and you can show up with your sort of creative, impressionistic mind, and you can take a look at that stuff and you can start reorganizing these words. And that's where it gets really fun. And that's also where it gets, where you go from thinking, wait, am I just quoting what other people do? Or am I coming up with my own lyrics? When you reorganize them and you reassemble them yourself, that's when it really takes on an original format too. So it's a lot of fun to do. You don't even have to totally rearrange it. I mean, you could still just use quotes. I mean, if people are saying stuff and it's out in the public space, and you hear it, you can borrow it as long as it's not somebody's original work themselves. You don't want to be plagiarizing. You just want to be borrowing from real life kind of stuff. So that's a great way to do it. That's the gig book. So number one is create yourself some sort of notebook. I actually still call it the gig book, but I use Apple Notes now on my iPhone. I'll just jot stuff down right in here and go right into the Apple Notes and do it that way. You could just use pen and paper if you want, if you prefer that, and you could pick any other method you want. You could actually just use your voice memos and re-say things that you hear people say. So that's a great way to collect stuff. But remember, it's important to go back later and go into the gig book and find those things again and start reassembling them. So now another one that ChatGPT reminded me of, which is great, is the idea of a text message. I had forgotten about that, but yeah, once I got a text message from a buddy of mine, from Chris actually again, and I thought, I really want to write a song right now, so I'm just going to take that text message he sent and write it into a song. And it's a great exercise because it's such an honest, conversational way for people to communicate and to write things. And it can really help because it's what people say. So why not take a text message and actually rewrite it into a song? Or you can borrow from parts of text messages. Maybe you had, who knows, maybe you actually had an emotional moment in a text message with somebody. Maybe you had an angry breakup or something. And maybe you want to be able to use that as fuel for a song. You might not necessarily want to call out an individual, because again, remember, a song to be valuable to somebody else who's listening should really be something that is, meant for them. It's personal in your experience, but it's not so personal that they're like, wait, who's Julie or who's Jennifer, or who's whoever that you're writing about in your song. If that was somebody that you broke up with. So that's another good tip. Find a text message or even an email, but I feel like emails are probably a little bit more formal. So that might not be quite as useful to you. Now, another one is a book you're reading. So that's a really fun one. Just take any book. If you're reading it, if you're not reading it, if you're just pick a book off the shelf, open it to a random page and grab some sentences out of there. Now, remember, you want to do this in a careful way because you're not trying to plagiarize somebody's song. Plagiarize somebody's written work, rather. You're just trying to look for inspiration. So you can write down phrases, you can write down sentences, you can write down ideas, you can write down words that you like. And then when you come back later, you can take those and rearrange them. Sometimes if I do that, I will put a little, initial code for who the author was or the book, just so I remember later when I come back. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to, quote from something directly and plagiarize. I just want to rearrange this into my own words and borrow from the idea. So that can be a really good one. So now you got 3 different ways. You've got the gig book itself and writing down quotes that you overhear people say. You've got text messages for what people will write to you or what you write to other people that can be in a real conversational voice. And then you've got, formally written books, creative works where people are really coming up with great ways to say stuff, great expressions. You can always go back to public domain books too that are really old where they're perfectly available for you to quote from. So all of these can be super helpful. And then my last tip is just to remember to use AI. Why not? Why not go to AI and just ask it to give you an answer to something? Now, I wouldn't encourage you necessarily to just directly take from that, but I would encourage you to let that be a spark of an idea that you can turn around and use yourself later just to get your creative ideas going. Sometimes you just need to go from blank to the beginning of some sort of idea. And that can be a really good way to do it. It's so easy to just go in and say, like, give me 20 starting ideas and it'll give you stuff. It's also really useful when you take a line and you want to then look for a rhyme for it or another way to say something. So that can be really helpful there. So I hope that helps. That's 4 different ways that you can get started taking your lyrics from feeling like you just totally suck at writing lyrics because you have no clue what you want to write about to having an actual practice that will, get you going and get you started on it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Again, I'm Lij Shaw with Recording Studio Rockstars, and I want to know, for you, what has been a really great practice for you? Drop this in the comments below. Just let me know what has been a great practice for you in terms of getting started with writing a lyric or writing a song. Where do you find inspiration from? Or which one of these might be helpful for you? Or if you have a better idea, drop it in there. I'd love to hear about it from you. And I'll do my best to include that in the next one and give you a shout out too, because I love sharing all this information. And if you enjoyed this video too, please like it and subscribe so you get more of these great videos from me here at Recording Studio Rockstars. Keep making great songs and keep on rocking. Cheers.